Hey guys, so today I thought I'd go ahead and just make a hopefully short video talking about the Chinese Norinco SKS. These guns used to be probably one of the more affordable options into the 7.62 by 39 caliber and generally intermediate cartridges in general, because you always hear those stories about them being $80 and all sorts of manners of crazy prices. But nowadays these things have definitely gone up. And one of the sad things about that is that it's harder to justify getting one when you have guns like, ARs, for example, that have definitely gone down in price, and the SKS has gone up in price, and they're about the same in sometimes the cases as, I got this for like 500 something dollars, and I got a Ruger AR-556 for 530 bucks around the same time in like 2018, 2019. So, what are you getting for 530 bucks and around about, a little bit under that in this? Well, for 530 bucks, you're getting a detachable magazine, a much better stock, much better trigger, more accessories and modern optics. You're getting a just overall much better package that has more modulability, and just overall I think is a much better deal. But well, so why would you get one of these? Well, main reason is nostalgia, collection, just people who love the old school military surplus rifles. This is a commercial gun, probably built in like the 80s or something for the American market, but it still has the classic look. It was made probably in a factory that made the real Chinese military guns, and you can get the Chinese military guns very easily. In fact, if you're probably going to find a good, affordable SKS right now, that's probably the only way, is one of those recent imports of Chinese surplus military SKSs that were probably sitting in some neutral country for 20 years and came over, and those are usually packed in cosmoline, and they can be a little bit rough and hit or miss in terms of finish, wood quality, and so on. This gun was basically brand new when I bought it because it was covered in cosmoline, and I don't think it had ever been fired since it probably left the factory. There is definitely some marks and dings from probably sitting in gun safes, probably just being out and about, but really, I was very lucky to get this. I do love the classic look of this gun, so I'll go ahead and just talk about some of the features and my personal thoughts on some of this gun. I'll go ahead and just also state that I have about 500 rounds through it, and I only recently zeroed it. So my opinions on on the accuracy and stuff like that, as always, I say that I really don't have a whole lot to add on to that, and I wish I could, but I'm just not in a situation where I can. So starting off with the muzzle, it is a unprotected, unthreaded muzzle. So bear in mind to keep your muzzle protected from damaging the crown. And personally, I really do wish that they had invented some sort of muzzle brake for these things. As you can see, the Soviet SVT-40, that in some ways some people argue actually was the predecessor of the SKS, or the SKS kind of replaced it in terms of functionality, has a very effective muzzle brake. And the reason why I say this is, obviously it's not shooting the same caliber, but it's just the SKS seems to be really much more, like, it just has a lot more recoil compared to your standard AK with just a slant brake. I have a Wasser with just a slant brake, and it has a much better controllability in terms of recoil and just single shots. This thing really does kick like a mule, and it's kind of strange when you think about it for just being an intermediate cartridge. I guess it might be the gas setting. It might be very overgassed. Who knows? And actually, I think it is overgassed, because I'll explain why I think that also. You can see your front sight is a AK style, or, well, the AK style is an SKS style, I guess, in this sense. Rear sight, where you have a drum that you can push left to right, and a screw in, screw out front post. It is obviously protected. And as you can see, It is a little bit canted, but nothing terrible. In fact, it is really good. I did the 25 yard zero using the 200 meter setting, and it's doing good. As you can see, it does feature the Chinese spiker folding bayonet. Some people prefer the blade bayonet on the Yugoslavian and Russian guns. Personally, I do prefer them, but for the price of one of these and some of the features you get over like the Yugoslavians, for example, it's nice. The main feature I'm talking about with the Yugoslavian guns that you're missing out on them is with this gun and the Russian guns, well, you're at least getting a chrome lined barrel. On the Russian guns, I'm not even sure if they were cold hammer forged, but these, from what I've been told, are cold hammer forged chrome lined barrels. And that is definitely a huge plus for longevity. If you plan on shooting this a lot, it is definitely the way to go, because your Yugoslavian guns don't have chrome lined barrels, at least. Moving back, you can see you have a sling attachment point on the gas block, and this did come with a Chinese style sling. As you can see, the gas tube and upper handguard are very reminiscent of the AK, or the AK is reminiscent of the SKS. It even features the exact same style of lever to remove your gas tube. Although the entire gas system is completely different from the AK. Personally, and from what I've heard from other people, the AK is a bit more reliable than these. I've had a little bit of experience with, AKs in terms of maybe 6,000, or not 6,000, probably like 7,000, 8,000 rounds through AKs, and 500 rounds to this, I had a failure to eject. I don't really remember ever having a failure to eject on an AK. That just might be because this thing is really overgassed, like I was saying, and the bolt's moving so fast, the case can't even get out by the time it's closed. And that would definitely make sense based on how much recoil I think this gun has compared to just your standard AK. Moving to the rear sight, you can see that it is a 1,000-meter leaf tangent sight with the D as the battle setting. As you can see on the commercial ones, at least, it appears that all of the bolts and bolt carriers were left in the white. On some Chinese and Russian military guns, you can find them with blued bolt carriers and bolts, but I'm not fully certain how that works or the reason behind it. Also, you can see that the markings from the factory are not on the rear dust cover. They're actually, in fact, on this side of the receiver, and I'll show you those in a second. I guess I'll go ahead and talk about the magazine, because there is a bit of interesting thing with this. So you have a non-detachable 10-round internal magazine. It does have a lever to open it so you can dump your rounds. You can also load it from this way, and I saw someone do that, and that blew my mind. You can technically open the magazine up and load it from the bottom, but I wouldn't recommend doing that because it's not very reliable. Also, you can see here you do have a stripper clip notch. Personally, I'd recommend getting the Yugoslavian, or if you can find like Russian ones, because your newer commercial or just random ones, I've heard terrible things about them. These Yugoslavian ones came with the old brass corrosive ammo, and they have worked like a charm. I have like 13 or 12 of these things, and I would strongly recommend always reloading your gun with these, because it's not fun reloading a 10-round magazine one at a time, especially how this magazine works, because I'll show it to you here in a second. I'm just going to put you guys down and rack the bolt so I can show you. Hopefully you can see. Probably get a light for you guys. What I'm trying to discuss is, you can see right there, right in front of my finger, is like a little wedge shape. That is your bolt hold open in the last round. And what I've kind of found is that if you have the gun with the muzzle, you know, pointed or like angled upwards, it is a little bit tricky to reload the gun because your rounds kind of want to go a little bit too far back to where they're not, the rear end of it isn't lined up with your magazine, but it's kind of like hitting your last round hold open, and you kind of have to push them forward a little bit to properly align them with the magazine and get them in. It's just a little bit of a annoyance, but I'd honestly strongly recommend getting stripper clips because it makes reloading this thing so much better. Moving back, we have probably one of the worst triggers I've ever had in a semi-auto, and I am not saying that lightly. Go ahead and just say that it does have a very ergonomic safety, I would say, for a right-hander. It's very nice. This is fire. This is safe. And one of the cool features about this is you can, in fact, you, well, you didn't see, but you heard me. I had this gun dry fired, so the hammer down, or hammer fired, and then I racked the bolt back on safe. You cannot do that on a AK with the safety on because it basically is blocking the hammer from coming back down. So that's a huge benefit, in my opinion. Being able to safely rack the gun or clear the gun with the safety on is a huge win. But the trigger is really where I have a whole lot of problems with this gun. It is very mushy. It breaks maybe 4 to 6 pounds. It's not the most heaviest trigger, but it just doesn't have a whole lot of tactile feedback. It kind of just breaks eventually, and it's a very mechanical, mushy feeling, and the reset is terrible. It's like I guess a mushy mechanical, but it's one of those mechanicals where it's not like you have a very positive and audible reset, but it just kind of resets at some point, and it's very mushy feeling. In fact, I think I had a slight bump fire when I was shooting this from a rest, zeroing it, because it's kind of like one of those triggers where the reset is so short and so unexpected that it's very easy to kind of bump fire it. The stock is also another huge downside. I'm not sure if most SKSs are like this, but this stock is so short, it is very uncomfortable. If you're of longer stature, this is going to be a nightmare. And what I've noticed is when I'm shooting from a rest especially, I kind of have to have my hand like this in order to not have my thumb kind of hit me in the nose sometimes, because if you're very up close to this cheek comb, it can easily happen. It does have a trap door for a cleaning kit, and mine did come with a cleaning kit. I guess I'll go ahead and move the gun over and talk about some markings. As you can see, we have serialized parts, and they are matching down to the stock. Here's some other markings. We do have a G2 right there. I don't know what that means, but we do have SKS-762x39, Norinco China, and Poly USA, who is the importer. As you can see, there's a few dings and nicks in the wood, but nothing too terrible. That's really all there is to say about the features and just gun in general. The takedown is not as easy as an AK, and the lever on these, especially on guns that haven't been fired, are very stiff, so that's kind of a downside. But I would say that if you really want one of these, try to pay in the range of $400, $500. I wouldn't overpay that. If you can find one of the military surplus ones in Cosmoline, that varying condition, for like $400 or less, that's a really good deal. Just bear in mind, you're going to have to do a lot of cleaning. You're probably going to have to clean the wood. I didn't have to clean the wood, but a good way to do that is either leave it out on a hot, sunny day, or get like a heat gun and kind of just heat down your stock, and then when the Cosmoline starts beating off, you kind of just wipe it off. It might have a little bit of a tacky kind of, just disgusting slimy feel to it, that means you haven't gotten all of it out yet. But I'll go ahead and just say that I think if you want a gun that has some historical and potential collectability, go ahead and get one of these. It's not supposed to be a shit hits the fan gun like people say. I don't think it really has ever really been one of those, unless it was, back in the day when they were dirt cheap and stuff. But yeah, it's a cool gun. It's got some cool features. It's fun. It's just a little bit outdated for the times. But I guess that's the video. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about this gun besides, I guess I should say accuracy. Like I said, I don't get to shoot these guns too far out anymore due to my land availability and issues with that. But I would recommend shooting better ammo than Tula for good accuracy, because that stuff is just terrible. But I would probably say that this is a relatively average, probably just whatever anyone else says SKSs are, like, like 2 MOA or whatever it is, standard, I guess. I don't know. But I would just probably say it's probably average for what you would typically get with an SKS. But yeah, that's all I really got to say. If you like this video, please like, share, subscribe, comment. I try to reply to all comments. And the update on the Palmetto State Armory 74 is coming soon because some new developments have happened. I did shoot it. I shot 150 rounds, and it was all right, but I want to make a video soon, hopefully, and a very interesting video at that, I think, where I talk about some stuff and maybe compare it to something, if you know what that means. So yeah, be on the lookout for future videos, updates, and so on. And if you have any feedback, please leave it to me, because I am obviously very new to this and very limited in how I can make these. So yeah, if you enjoyed it, please, like I said before, do all the cool YouTube things for me. It's been very awesome seeing my channel develop from, well, I mean, I'm at 250 subscribers, but I'm shocked as how many people view these videos, honestly. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and hope you guys have a wonderful day, and peace.